Lilliputian. So I'm working on the 4 comas for volume 2. These are kind of like bonus comics, and they're meant to jovially recap volume 1. My intention isn't to like totally recap volume 1, since that's what volume 1's for, but it's just kind of to add some nuance, or to add a little bit of humor, or to help you get to know the characters just a little bit better in a fun way. If you're not familiar with 4 Coma comics, I highly recommend you check out the comic Azu Manga Diaoh by Kiyohiko Azuma. It's one of my favorite 4 Coma comics. They're also known as Yan comics, and basically they are 4 panels going vertically, and they're meant to be read vertically. And they're one of my favorite formats for humor, because when we have strip style comics like newspaper comics, we tend to spoil the joke. Our eyes kind of stray just a little bit to the last panel, so we spoil the joke before we even get to it. Whereas with 4 Coma comics, they feel funnier because we're reading vertically, so we can't spoil the joke before we get there. So I've got 3 pages drawn, and there are 2 strips per page. I have many pages left to do, but that's okay. So what I want to do is I want to start doing a batch chain. And what that means is not only am I drawing strips every day, but I'm also working on later parts of the process every day. And I use this process when I have time constraints, or I'm trying to get more done, or once I've really hammered in my process and I know what I'm doing. This is a technique that I've used pretty frequently when working on like anthology comics, and it's also a technique I used when I was working on some of the recipes for the Little Louisiana Cookbook. And once this part of the project is done, I really look forward to being able to pick up the Little Louisiana Cookbook project again. So if you enjoy that, I think you'll like these 4 Coma comics, because that style influenced these 4 Coma comics. So let's zoom in and take a look at what these comics are going to look like. So this is one of the pages in progress. Usually they're zoomed in quite a bit more. And this side has been sketched, and this side has basically been thumbnailed. It has a brief sketch, and it's going to look totally different when it's finished. So what I've done for today is I've converted the finished pages to non-photo blue, and then I'm going to go ahead and print these out on 11 by 17 smooth Bristol. So let's head on over into one of the other rooms where I have my large format printer and talk about that. So I apologize for the lighting in here. This is a bedroom, not a studio space, but I use it to keep some of my larger overflow equipment. And this is my large format printer. And I basically only use it for Bluelines, but it'll print Bluelines on just about anything. And over on top, we have just an inexpensive pack of Strathmore Smooth Bristol. And then of course over here in Photoshop, you barely can see it, I've got my pages pulled up. So let's go ahead and get these printed. Now the purpose of printing Bluelines is, so sometimes this stage seems really redundant and I lose a lot of people. But the purpose of this is that I can then either ink directly on top of it and have really nice clean black lines, or I can pencil on top of it, cleaning up, making corrections, adding details, and then ink on top of it. So it's just another stage where I can revise things. I don't really like working digitally start to finish. I don't like inking digitally. I like inking traditionally using a Fude pen or a brush. So the Blueline method allows me to do my sketching digitally, where I can resize things, I can copy things, I can paste things, I can do all kinds of different things. It makes the process so much easier than drawing it by hand. And then I can print it on my preferred paper and ink it with whatever I want. All right, so what I need to do is I need to adjust the front, because it needs to be front loaded. The back is open and down, and that allows the paper to go all the way to the back flat and then come all the way to the front. And this is great if you're printing on like illustration board or heavier watercolor papers, and it's one of the reasons I really like this printer. So then I'm going to bring up the strips that I want to print. This one is basically set up for printing. I kind of figured everything out ahead of time. And I have my file set to 11 by 17, which is what I'm using right here. You don't have to work on 11 by 17. In fact, I played around with the idea of doing these at 9 by 12, but I have a lot of 11 by 17 paper, and I just thought I could do a better job if I did it on 11 by 17. So one of the things I want to do early on, I want to go ahead, remove my sheet of paper and just kind of have it ready, and that helps the process go by a little bit faster. We're gonna hit print, and then things are gonna get real noisy in here because this printer, while I love it, it is not a quiet printer by any shake. Now it says the printer's online. That's my mistake, I forgot to turn it on. You think you're so together, and then you hit record, and then you're not together at all, but that's okay. So it's got to warm up, it's got to go through its paces. And in this printer, I actually use knockoff ink because the knockoff ink is water soluble, and the official ink is not water soluble. And when I'm doing watercolor pages, as I've demonstrated over on the YouTube channel several times, I like the fact that when I put a wash of water on top, it reactivates that ink, and I can put paper towels down and pick that ink back up for the most part. Oh, it still says the printer's offline. There we go. It's gonna be a fun struggle to get ink for this printer again. I have a little bit left, but I think wherever I was getting it from doesn't sell ink anymore. That's why I don't want to upgrade. They actually sell the new version of this printer cheaper than what you would pay to get this one, but I don't know if I can get those watery refills that I love so much. Now in the yellow light in this room, you can't really see the blue lines. That's part of the reason I have it as bright and as white as the sun over in the studio. Okay, so we have our blue lines printed out onto Bristol. Usually my next step for inked traditional media comics is to go ahead and do the borders. So one of the things I really like using for borders are calligraphy pens. These are Sakura Pigma's graphic pens. So they come in 3 sizes. If you get the ones that look like this, that they come in like 3 slightly different sizes. So I end up with a lot of them because, you know, I'm always looking for just right. But what I like about both of them is that they are alcohol marker proof and waterproof. If you want to use these for your watercolor comics or your Copic comics, these are great for doing borders. And they come in 1mm, 2mm, and 3mm, with the 1mm being a bullet and the 2 and the 3 being a chisel. And they're really pretty easy to use. Okay, so here are our pile of 4 comas. Sorry, I have 6 of them printed out, so 2 batches of 3 each. I think I have 1 more batch of 3 coming up, and that'll be about it. But I want to go ahead and get started working on these. So rather than having all 6 out, we're going to have 1 at a time out. We're going to move the rest away so they don't get in the way of what we're doing. You want to put them somewhere safe so they don't get dirty, especially if you're working in a limited space. In fact, often I will keep the package that my paper came in and just put my printed paper in there just to keep it safe and prevent it from getting dirty. So these are the graphics that I was telling you guys about. You can get them a lot of different places. I think I got these off of Amazon. You can get them at Michael's. You can get them at most art stores. They're not like rare. Sometimes you can get them at Walmart even. Let me show you guys. I've done videos where I talk about bordering your comics because I really think using calligraphy pens for borders is a great easy hack. So this is the 1mm bullet nib, and bullet refers to the shape of the nib. It has no give, it has no flex. Here is the 2mm. If you look closely, you can see its chisel shape. No flex, no give. And here's the 3mm, and you can get them wider, but it's difficult to find them wider in something that is waterproof and marker proof. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to do this around the camera, but I'm going to give it my best go. You're gonna probably want to have a smaller ruler also handy, as well as some paper towels to wipe off the ruler, and this is gonna help prevent smudging. And I'm gonna link a full tutorial where I show you guys how to do borders in the description in case you are indeed curious about this. Now what I try to do is I try to line it up on the outside of the ruler so that if we make any mistakes, it goes out of the panel or the box border. It can be hard to see. I think I just crossed over the line because I can't see what I'm doing super well. Acrylic rulers help with this. But as you can see, I did cross over the line. That's going to be an easy fix later on with a little bit of whiteout or white gouache. And then we just wipe off our ruler. Okay, we went over the lines a little bit here, which is fine because I'm not going to marker over this. I'm not going to watercolor over this. I'm just going to pencil it and then ink it. It'll be black and white, so I don't have to worry about like markers looking funny or watercolors looking funny or any kind of reactivation. So next, I'm going to do all the top and bottom borders, and then I'll do the side borders using the longer ruler. So it's a little bit difficult to see like this, but some of the panels break the panel border. So what I want to do when I'm inking going in the opposite direction is I'm actually going to skip the borders that are broken, and I'll come back and ink that again later on. And don't forget to wipe your ruler down after you've pulled lines like that. And think of it a little bit like a samurai movie where you have to wipe your sword off to prevent it from rusting. And it'll make you feel a little bit fake cool as well. But if you don't, it can cause smearing and it can cause the ink to pool underneath. So it's really good practice to do that every time you pull a long line like that. So as you guys can see, there's a lot of overages, there's a lot of mistakes on this that, like I said, is not a big deal. So what I'm going to do, right now I'm trying to remove a bow hair from, it's brand new, how does it, anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to correct these mistakes after I've finished penciling, usually while I'm inking, once I have everything kind of tighter and I know where everything's gonna go. And I will show you guys that. But first, we have to finish doing the borders on the other 5 pages, which I'm gonna do from like handy view cam and in time lapse. so we've got the borders on these 6 pages done. If you were watching closely, you saw me make a ton of mistakes. I don't know what's up with my hands tonight. It's not really a big deal. I'm not looking forward to fixing everything, but it's not the end of the world. And I can show you guys how to fix a lot of those mistakes. You have a couple of options. You can use white gouache, or you can use a white correctional fluid, or you can do your corrections digitally. It's really how you're most comfortable. But if you're more comfortable working digitally, then you probably did not do the borders by hand anyway. So what I'm going to do next time is I'm going to pencil these. I'm going to do it one at a time. So I'm going to pencil a page and then I'm going to ink it. And I'm just going to work my way through all of the pages. That's pretty simple, right? And then when I'm finished inking all of them, I will scan them again, make those final digital corrections, and then I'm going to do my lettering digitally. I'm sorry that I started the tutorial kind of mid-tutorial. I know I have a tendency of doing that. My Surface Pro 3 does not capture video like at all. It lags Photoshop out to the point where there's just no point, and I did all my sketching in Photoshop. But if you would like kind of a 4-coma sketching demonstration, or if you'd like me to walk you through that process, I'm more than happy to do it. I just wanted to go ahead and get this started, you know. But I went with a very simple art style, something kind of cute, something kind of easy to draw, and something that would be fast, since it's just meant to be cute, funny, introductory comics before Volume 2 starts. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I enjoyed hanging out with y'all. Even though, you know, bordering pages is not my favorite part of the process, it's certainly not a particularly interesting or glamorous part. And you guys might have noticed that there's a lot of panels that are like half bordered, and that's because I am going to pencil and ink them, and then I'm going to go back and add the borders around that, and that way we don't have it cutting into any figures or anything like that. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Let me know if you need anything from this particular video explained a different way, demonstrated a different way, or explained more in depth. I'm happy to do it. And I hope you guys are looking forward to seeing these finished 4-comas in Volume 2. Thank you guys again for your support with the Kickstarter. It really means a lot to me, and I'm really excited to be able to share this part of my process with you guys. So have a wonderful day, guys. Bye!